We had 6 tries to 1, 2 out of 6 conversions, played 1 out of 1 for Melbourne. 83% completion, played 86%. 36 out of 43 sets, played 37 out of 43 sets. 7 line breaks for the Sharks, 2 for Melbourne. 36 tackle bust, played 27. 8 offloads to 11. 1 forced dropout by the Sharks, 2 by Melbourne. 0 40-20s, 329 tackles, played 353. 4 ruck infringements to the Sharks, 1 against Melbourne, 1 inside the 10 for both teams. 10 penalties conceded to 9, 7 errors to 5, a sin bin from both sides. Brayley with 39 tackles, Chris Lewis with 40, Tracy with 173 running metres, Nelson Asofa Solomona with 131. Graham missed 5 tackles, made 22. Nakora missed 5 tackles and made 30. Lewis missed 4 tackles, made 40, and Kamakamika missed 4 and made 39. Ramian with 133 Supercoach points, Brayley with 82, and McGuinness with 73.
Well, in contrast to my comments towards Barney in our group chat after the game, my feeble attempts to try and rile him up, I do think Cronulla played quite well in this game, despite Melbourne playing quite poor. But that's obviously, I guess, the story coming out of it, how poor Melbourne were and the whole Brandon Smith sin binning and all that. But I thought overall, I think Cronulla deserved to be applauded, I guess you could say, for their effort. Their defense as well, I think, was outstanding in this game. I'd have to say so myself. And I think it comes back to what Gum says as well. And we've sort of raved about sort of the impact of halves and that. And I think even Trindle, I think, had a really good game in this one. And I don't think he's really set the world alight too often in first grade, but this game I thought it was a great performance. Even Matt Moylan, someone you've been talking about, Barn, this year, I think, and again, just having that bit of structure. And it was crazy seeing it against Melbourne. I know that Munster and Grant were out. Well, I don't know, even if they were playing in this one, I just really like the way Cronulla performed and saw the intensity that they brought overall. It's hard to go past Jesse Ramian scoring, what was it, 4?
Got 3.
Three tries. I think he had 1 disallowed, didn't he? I think he, I don't know, for me, he was probably the best player on the field. It's hard to go past the 3-try effort. And Melbourne just looked like, even their edges, Melbourne's edges have always sort of been a bit of an issue in defence, sort of highlighted, I think, more a bit last year. But yeah, I think they were just shocking.
You pay for an overview because their decisions from their backline in defence were appalling at times. There, poor old Olam just got stranded. He actually looked worse than it. I think the inside-outside of him left him stranded a few times.
Yeah. Well, he's the only one in that back out of those the wingers and centres that would be their first pick. They're not picking either of those wingers just the other centre.
He was trying to come across and make covered tackles, and he's yelling at the winger to stay there, and the winger's coming in anyway. And just Ramian made
dummies.
There look like complete fools, and look like a superstar on the back of it. Their forwards are concerning these days. They're just a shadow of themselves, even the ones that are fit. I'll get to the two gurus in a minute. Scott, do you have any takeaways from here?
Yeah, I thought the Storm just looked shell-shocked. Like, yeah, they're missing Munster and they're missing Harry Grant, but like they can't dip in performance by that amount, you know? And I worry what happens to them next year when they're missing 4 of their starting forward pack.
100%. It's just that you've nailed it perfectly, because I can't see how they maintain any standard without these blokes here. But you're very bullish on the Sharks' effort being quite good. Mm-hmm. Take us through that.
I thought the enthusiasm and the line speed that they played with in defence and attack was fantastic. I thought Melbourne never looked like scoring a try up until the last minute and a half in the game. I know, as you said, they were down, but they had plenty of ball and plenty of opportunities up the Sharks' end, and they shut them down time after time. Their forwards were decent enough, but it's the Sharks' back 5. It's week after week. They make 150 metres, pretty much every single one of them coming out of the back end, and they were doing it.
Penrith,
They're doing it at both ends of the field too. They were creating line breaks and tackle busts with the ball in hand, and they were shutting down the attack and defence. It's not often you see Melbourne get beaten in every aspect of the game. Like I don't think there was a position on the field that they had a player that was better than the Sharks in this game.
Nah.
I think the Sharks covered them in every position on the field, and
Who?
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
I thought Connor Tracy was good on his return. Obviously, kept some really good ball carries there, as well as Ramian. The forwards weren't fantastic for the Sharks, but they still won that battle, even though they weren't fantastic. With the line speed out of McGuinness, he's becoming a really big impact player off the bench for the Sharks. Cameron McGuinness, when he comes on with that leg drive and the speed through the middle of the ruck, he makes a lot of he causes a lot of problems for the defense and the opposition. The halves for the Sharks, as Ollie mentioned, they were both good. Trindle probably played the best game he's played in a long time, and they played with a lot of depth in attack. I think that was as deep as I've seen their back line fan out in attack, and they just Melbourne didn't know what was coming because they were running really quick and they were coming off the back fence at them, and Melbourne couldn't make the decisions to shut them down. Their backs struggled really badly, except for Olam that you mentioned, and the only time that he didn't look good was when, as you said, his outside and inside guys let him down and made him look poor in defence. Hugh's first half was disgusting, but he sort of got it back in the second half, started playing some better football. Chris Lewis probably worked as hard as anyone on the field, as did Nelson and Alec McDonald. The bench was okay. I thought Cheese was their best player until he got a bit lippy at the back end of the game. And
it felt like a lot like last week. There was two blokes that stood up, as him and Nas.
He looked completely stuffed in the last sort of 20 minutes, half an hour of the game. I think that's half the reason he called him a cheat to get a 10-minute rest, to be honest. But Brayley was fantastic. He would have been close to the man of the match, but I'm with Ollie. I thought Ramian was probably the best player on the field.
I thought Brayley was outstanding. Yeah. He his work out of dummy half, and that deception that he's committing that A defender and letting the halves able to be able to have a little bit more time to do their work makes them look a whole lot better. But he's quality, and his influence on the game was by far the best for mine. Melbourne need to get rid of their new boot sponsors, Ready Mix Concrete, because they look like they had concrete boots on fair dinkum. They just looked slow from the first minute of the game, Melbourne. And look, some of the forwards are a shadow, like a bloke like Jesse Bromwich, who's going like a busted. Like Big Nelson, he's effective to a point, but he's not fit enough. You get 20 minutes out of him, and in the middle, I'd be running traffic at him because he's slow laterally and getting little blokes running at him. That Kamika, he's no good either.
Even Josh King, who had like some real good leg speed and had an impact.
He's looking slow.
He's looking tired.
Like Pappy's still injured. Like you can see him hobbling around. So look, you don't know whether he's being needled to play in terms of that at the moment. So and they're back five other than Olam. I'd take Pappy out, but the 3-quarter line other than Olam, they're not first graders. And at the moment, like the expectations on Melbourne with those blokes in the team, I've overestimated. Like I tipped Melbourne last week and thought they'd bounce back, and probably overestimated the fact that the next guy in for them does the job, because I don't know that these blokes that they've got are able to do the job. I think their depth's being seriously tested. And as Scotty said, he holds fears for them next year when they're losing these blokes, unless they've got blokes that they've got their eye on to come and replace them, which Melbourne may do. We've seen in the past that they lose a bloke and they bring somebody else in of similar quality.
Chris Potato.
But well, that's what I mean. But they will find
they are
somebody for them. Look, for Melbourne to win the comp now, their big name players are going to have a final series that's just unbelievably good to beat not even just Penrith, the Sharks, the Cowboys, Parramatta, the Broncos, teams like that. That those blokes are going to have to play. The Roosters are going to have to play. But look, I agree with you. The Roosters are a top 4 team that won't make the top 4. But in terms of that, but they'll be dangerous. But those blokes, Harry Grant and all that, are just going to have to play out of their skins for Melbourne to feature at this point in time. And we can only go on exposed form and what we're seeing at the moment. And at the moment, they're busted.
If there was any other club, I don't know, big texture out. But like if even if they limp into a prelim, any team with Grant and Pappy and Munster, you go, well, 2 of those blokes turn up and they might only need 15 minutes being Melbourne. Yeah.
Like
They could-
if they come out the first 15 minutes and they score 4 tries, it's 24-0. The
Yeah,
game's over.
That's right.
So that Melbourne only need 15. That's
But
why you don't pen them. But at this
That's
point
right.
in
And then all
time,
of a sudden, we've talked about Cheese. All of a sudden, Cheese is playing lock again. All of a sudden, you might get Coates back. But it's any other club, I would be writing them off. And I don't think they win the comp. Like, quite more than comfy saying that, but they might still spook someone. That said, there's some very interesting rounds coming up where they're going to be playing other teams in and around that, and I would be right now tipping those other teams.
The Sharks have got to run. They've got the Cowboys this week and the Panthers next week. So you get a bit more of a gauge out of them in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, there's a couple.
But as a Sharks supporter, like that back five's as good as anyone on their day. Their halves are decent. Nico's obviously, he's right up there at the moment in the conversation. Brayley's one of the, their spine all the way through is pretty good. It really depends on if their forwards get rolling through the middle, and if they do, I think they can match it with pretty much anyone.
The only thing with the Sharks, and I agree with you, is that if you compare, and look, at the moment we comparing teams to Penrith, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
At the moment, the Cronulla back four have just got more errors in them.
Yeah.
Than like Katoa and Mulatalo, and that they're great players, but they've got that.
Well, Ramey
one
was
or two
fantastic, and I think he dropped the ball 5 times.
So they've got that mistake. Whereas the Penrith blokes, they might make one. Like Tago's the one that probably makes the most errors for them, but the other, they just don't make mistakes.
And
they don't make
still
errors.
yet to really. This was okay. I'd still yet to really see their forwards in a dogfight with a Fisher Harris, all those blokes, Fisher Harris, Yo, blah 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 blah. But if you're sitting here as a Sharks fan from where you've come from, sitting pretty, thinking you're a top 4 team, you take it.
Considering we missed the 8 last year, there's things to improve on.
They're a top 4
obviously.
team.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of their bigger fellas are on their way out, so we need a couple of big forwards to come into the team. But depending on who they get, it could be anything over the next couple of years.
So realistically, in a sentence, a Melbourne gone and a Sharks we're saying are contenders.
I'd probably have Melbourne and Sharks both around that 4th position on the table at the moment. I think the Cowboys now pretty much slip into 2nd. And then you've got Parramatta and who else is sort of floating around there. But I think the Sharks and Melbourne are at that same level at the moment.